Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have Mr. Tom Allen. How are you, Tom?
Great to be on the show. Great to be on the G&T Sessions, Andrew, and I really appreciate you joining me today. It's going to be a good conversation, I'm sure. And thank you for having me on.
Cool. And whereabouts are you today then? Whereabouts are you in the world?
Based out of Birmingham at the moment. I'm in just off the city centre, and
all right, just near the bull ring.
Near there, yeah, not too far from there, but I can get there in about 10-minute walk, if that. So yeah, it's quite central to that place at the moment.
Cool. Yeah. I used to go to have curries in Lye, actually. You know Lye, just outside
I know Lye very well.
country.
Yeah, when we last spoke, I was just outside of Hagley, so all around that area, Stourbridge and everything, and that's where I'm originally from. Very some good places to eat, right?
Yeah, you can have vindaloos and tindaloos. You know, like tindaloos, like, you know.
I haven't heard that one before. I like that.
No, they call it tindaloo. Yeah, the tindaloo, and it's like, Anyway, we digress. No, so interesting kind of location. Is that because you're based in Birmingham? Is that because of your family, or is there a reason why you based in Birmingham? Are you just kind of like liked it there?
Yeah, I think I quite liked it. I've been moving around quite a bit, Andrew. So going from London, lived in London for a bit, and was living up in Nottingham, then back into Hagley, and then really to come back into Birmingham city centre. Obviously, I'm in London a lot and travelling within limited capacity at the moment, but next year we're travelling a lot, and it just really seemed like an ideal place to grow the business from, and to be central located in UK and close to the airport, quick to get to London. So. And it's really up and coming place at the moment in my vision, in my picture, from what I'm seeing.
What would you call it though? What would you call it? Silicon Ring. You could call it Silicon Ring.
Yeah, maybe we should come up with a name for it, Andrew. Silicon.
Silicon. You said Silicon Bull. Yeah, no.
Yeah, play off the bull ring. I like that. Yeah,
Silicon Ring sounds pretty. Because you got Silicon Roundabout. You see, just near Old Street, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
Obviously, got Silicon Beach in Tel Aviv.
Yeah,
and then obviously we've got Silicon Valley, but obviously everybody's. I spoke to somebody today actually because there's some companies I'm involved in. They're based in Austin, Texas.
Yes,
and they said, oh, everybody's leaving Silicon Valley now. There's nobody left. Yeah, and I go, all right, where are they all going? Oh, Austin, Texas, apparently. Yeah. They all with Stetsons on and they do line dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and now all following Musk's moves there as well. But maybe so the audience will be wondering, because we'll have a strategy session afterwards and think, what can we call it now for Birmingham? The new Silicon something. I love it.
No, Silicon Ring. Silicon Ring sounds good, I think.
It's a good one.
It's a bit like Beyonce. You put a ring on it. You know, it's that kind of. You could do a pop song. So, obviously, for people that don't know Tom Allen as yet. But obviously, we'll do in a few minutes after you've obviously explained a little bit about yourself. But yeah, so what kind of things are going on in Tom's world at the moment? What's keeping you occupied when you're not in lockdown in your house or in Silicon Ring? Got a ring on it.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and really, I mean, everything I do is focused on the AI journal at the moment, and that's really a lot of where my focus and energy is going. And I mean, I may have got to the point one or two of my friends were worried about me because I just wasn't communicating as much, and all my focus was.
You've gone dark. You've gone off the grid, have you, or something?
Exactly. Well, I thought it was the best time to do it because we're in lockdown, right? And I thought this is the best time because there's nothing really, any distractions. So went on a massive stop drinking for ages and really dealt into the business. A lot of late nights and early starts, and a lot of fuel going into the business. But I mean, really outside of it, I'm a pretty sociable person. I'm obviously one of my key things that I tell people is I love people, and I love spending time with people such as yourself, Andrew, to get to know their story and to understand what they're doing, which I think is a real, and I always have been. I mean, even when I was in London, I was in essentially what I saw as an operationals role to relationship role / operations. And I think that really gave my first taste that just loving to network with people, loving to see how we can help, not necessarily always do the work, but understand them and really build that rapport with them, which I think is one of the big pros to what we have at AI Journal that I'll travel, as we were talking about earlier. I love to get that FaceTime. I was at Web Summit a month ago, planning to go to God knows how many conferences next year to really understand who that person is and really put that behind them. So very sociable outside of work and very sociable inside of work. And I'd love to love to do all those kind of fun things that everyone else loves to do.
So what you say, yeah, it means it's this human thing, isn't it? I suppose with the whole thing that we're all going through, it amplifies that element.
Yeah,
we are here. The idea is the humans are supposed to run the world, apparently, not the machines. I suppose that's the thing.
Well, that's my biggest thing. I fully believe I don't see myself buying from or doing a commercial deal with a robot anytime soon. Could be wrong, but I mean that's one of our big things, really, and that's why I set up the AI Journal, right? To make sure that people weren't scared or didn't have all these buzzwords thrown at them, and because I didn't understand it, I came from a place and thought, what does this all mean? And that's kind of what was the passion and what always will be now and 100 years from now, to show people, to educate as many people as we possibly can on how that helps, and have a lot of fun doing it, and show it can be fun, and show it doesn't need to all be buzzwords, or you don't need to know the algorithm or know all the technical terms to get it from a business intelligence view, that ultimately these technologies are here to help you, and they're here to enhance your day-to-day living, whether that's socially, commercially, with your relationships, whatever it is. I think there's not an aspect to the world we live in that will be untouched by it, and I really wanted to have a platform to communicate that to people, which is a great thing, because I'm very optimistic about it, not ever pessimistic as certain people are.
I suppose, yeah. When you were talking to me, there's a couple of things that came to mind. Was I think it's Steve Sammartino. He's in Australia. Yeah. I think I saw because he did a post about NFTs today. Actually, I think that I saw. About in 10 years they're going to own an NFT. They're going to own a picture of a digital gorilla or a digital chimp or a baby Elon or something like that, which would be worth billions of dollars. But I think he did a TEDx talk or something about, would you consider working? Would you put up with working for a robot in the future? If your manager was a robot, would you be happy? It's something like that. I think that's what his TEDx talk was about. Yeah, I think it was Steve anyway. But it's that thing about I suppose. So one of the things I was thinking when you talking about was about what triggered you to embark on this journey with creating this new platform, creating this AI journal, you call it, which I presume means artificial intelligence. Is that right? Is that what you call it, AI? Yeah. What happened? Does something happen that actually triggered you to do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And just quickly as well, Andrew, I can't see your video anymore, but you're back now. But looking at it from why I started it, which is a great question. I didn't really know what I was doing, Andrew. I didn't know I didn't see it as a business, but I just knew when I was in my role as a marketing manager or marketing team leader within LAC, where we did a lot of solutions with robotics, and we did a lot of palletizing and a lot of all these automation capabilities. So automating return hubs and everything. We dealt with things, and that's where I got my first look, like proper on-hand look at things like machine vision, robotics, dealt a lot of partnerships with KUKA, ABB, FANUC, all that kind of area that we would use to implement these solutions.
Oh, so really quite detailed logistics and physical movement of goods and things like that, like the Ocado warehouse and stuff like that.
Exactly. And all the physical kind of side to it, not really necessarily the software side of it. Obviously, you've got some languages mentioned and what had to be run in the back end, but it was very much on the forefront of being physical and seeing it in a warehouse or a center of some sort, whether that's baking bread or making goods or packing soda, whatever it was that we were working on at the time. It really gave me that look, and I thought, I don't know much about this, and I had to do a lot of late night reading, Andrew, and it really led me to understand, okay, if I don't know about it, a lot of other people might not know about it. And the more and more I checked, the more and more it became true, and I couldn't find things. And I mean, I always say it's not to say it didn't exist. I just couldn't find it. And I'd go to places that were very top level views. So, I mean, VentureBeat, and I still hold this kind of
VentureBeat, yeah.
No, it's not to criticize them or anything, but for me, I would see something that just has a view of, okay, what's the company that's funding this certain amount? But I really want to understand, how do people see these solutions going into a business, and how can this make real returns, and what examples have people got, and what roadmaps and what strategies? And that's really how I started. And I thought, well, because of all the late night reading, Andrew, I thought, well, the best way to learn and teach myself is to create this platform and making it open source. And I thought, well, I need to learn from people. And I mean, it was the hardest thing getting it off the ground because everyone's obviously like, who's this new platform? What do people do? There's no kind of real content behind there. But over time, very kind people started giving their time to come onto the platform. And then really, as soon as we came into 2021, it just took a massive turn and really went from strength to strength. So very grateful for that. And it's been a good ride to help people, because ultimately I'm not the expert. And I always say that I can't look at a piece of software and understand it, but I do understand it from a business intelligence view, and that's why I love to bring people on to share that view, and that's what we always will aim to do. So hopefully people find it.
So what you're saying is kind of like, so you were working in a business where it was actually being applied. This stuff was being applied in reality, and but then you also felt there there was a gap where people were kind of communicating this type of information, but with a certain angle, more down the financial valuation, or look at this funding round, et cetera, and not really necessarily being informative and educational. Was that the kind of slightly difference that you wanted to bring across?
Exactly. And I think to have it open as well, so people that we have write for us and that very kindly give their time, it's not always a technical view, and it doesn't need to be technical all the time. Obviously, some topics are more tricky than others, and but really to I guess democratize the sharing of information around this, because not having it locked up and not having it always put into technical terms and things that, I mean, I can go read research papers, and I've read a few that really go into algorithms, whether it's deep learning or machine learning algorithms and how the impacts, and you've really got to have this really quite hard reading, and it strains my eyes at least. For other people, it might be easier, but I'm sure there's a lot of people to me that think, God, I don't. But it was just so important to me that people understand it in simple terms. How does edge computing work? How does cloud work? What the different suppliers it's going to have? What's it going to have within the healthcare sector? So many various topics. And the reason I was keen on it is because it's affecting everyone's lives, and whether you know it or not. I mean, just picking up an iPhone, that's NLP, using it through Siri and everything, and mixture of AI, and it's in your day-to-day life. And it was really how to communicate that message across to people. And we do have very technical articles at time, but we also have people that aren't necessarily the most technical savvy people, but they can have their input and have their view on where's it going. Because ultimately, if you do follow the model that the customer's always right, I'm not saying that's the right model for any business, but if you do, we empower and encourage people to come and say, what do you actually think, or what do you actually know? Because although some people might think and scoff at it and think they clearly don't know anything, it's on them to know why they don't know it. And I think that's such a powerful point to say, okay, well, you can come on to our platform and really learn about this and break it down to you and really help you understand it. And through that, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're in HR or operations, whatever aspect of the business or a business, to help you be better at your job, and also have some cool tech to use in your own, some understanding of when you're next walking down the street, what's happening behind everything you see working in the world. So it's really where we come from, to kind of democratize that and not really make it too technical or too hard to understand.
Yeah, so you don't have to have a PhD in machine learning or computer vision to actually understand some copy. Yeah. I mean, I remember one of my previous guests who used to work for Samsung. He said that if you think AI is coming, it's already here. It's already here, and it's already all around us. So, but we don't realize it. It's kind of embedded in our daily lives already. But what you're saying is it's a bit like demystifying it for the masses, because they have to realize the implications of it. Is that also the thing about what? Because there's also this thing about people. Sometimes people, if they are not as technology aware, maybe it creates FUD, doesn't it? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because they feel like is it good or is it not so good? Is that another thing? Is that another element that you thought was out there as well, a gap? Yeah,
exactly. And just, we can edit this out as well, Andrew, but your camera is disabled just as a highlight. Every time I say that, it comes back on, but it's but yeah, it's something that I really encourage people to understand and to know about, because if you don't know something, you become very scared of it. So it's really making sure that you understand something and trying to get that information across is really critical to us, to really make sure that people know what's happening in the day-to-day life and happening with these kind of technologies, because people hear AI or they hear cloud or they hear IoT or big data and all these different topics, and it puts people off because they don't understand it. So really just trying to make it a platform to come to where people think, okay, I don't need to be scared to understand this. And I always say, when people ask me, when they take me on conferences or panels or whatever it is, I'm like, don't get technical with me, because I'm not an expert on this, and I'll just give you my my estimated guess. I'm not someone that can be grilled on those topics, but to really have that source. And I think that's where we'll get the readership and where we'll get the value and where we'll help a lot of people, because when people move jobs and move careers, and because if you're 35 or 40 and you're moving from company to company and you're moving to, say, an AI-enabled company or a big data or a big tech, just general tech company that's using a lot of tech, we want to be that kind of source that helps you for free to say, look, here's what we know about this topic, and here's the frameworks, and here's the strategies to add value to you with no cost, to say this is how you can be better in your day-to-day life, and this is how you can understand this technology. It's not the hardest thing in the world. So it's a real passion for me to educate these people. I mean, I didn't start it as a business. I started it just to help people learn, and that's will always be.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Was it more like like that phrase "side gig"? Was it more like a side gig, or it was like a passion project on the side to what your day job was, and then it became I mean, as far as I'm aware, it has become your day job, hasn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been self-employed with it for nearly a year now, which is funny when you look back on it. It's a whole year working just on the business, and that's how we've, I think, exploded it quite quickly. But it really wasn't, I didn't have it in my mind as a business when I bought the domain. I bought the website for 20 quid or whatever it was. And it was really just as a platform to say, okay, I don't know about it, let's help other people. And I think that's where Kieran came in, and maybe, obviously I've always wanted to run my own business. I won't shy away from that. And I've had businesses that failed. They made some money on the side, but ultimately that just maybe wasn't right. I didn't quite understand the business well enough. But with this, it just came from, I can teach myself a lot of things, like whether it was understanding WordPress. I mean, I was a marketer at heart anyway, and I worked at agencies, so I knew a fair few tactics within my short time within the career. But really just to help people. And then Kieran really looked at the business model with me and looked at how we can kind of leverage it. Really so grateful for that, because it really, I don't come from an angle of money making or anything. I come from an angle, how can we turn this information, this data, like anything, right, to help businesses, help them make better decisions, help them make educated decisions, and help them reach more people, and help them get their product and their vision and their strategy that we believe in to our audience that we're building quite quickly. And that really, really changed my thinking behind it, to think, okay, where can we move this to? And I mean, that's why we are where we are now and plan to be a lot bigger, because understanding all that from the lessons I'm getting is to add more value. We need more revenue and all those kind of things that come with it. But it needs, it really came from that focus, how to help people. And now it's the focus, how can we help companies, and how can we get them in the right kind of areas, and how can we, there's no point just sitting on all, similar to how AWS started, I guess. They were sat on all that data from Amazon. They thought, how can we leverage this? We've got the infrastructure. We can help other companies. And it's the same sort of mindset, I guess, not to compare ourselves against them, but that same kind of mindset to think, okay, well, we should use it and we should help other companies, which is what we do now, from private companies right through to publicly traded companies we do, which is a real cool thing to see happen in the past year. But will always be that focus of adding value to the user and adding value to, and having a great user experience. That's our two core values for us at the moment, Andrew.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned Amazon, about I can't remember the exact date. I think it was just under 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got an invite to a meetup group. Yeah, it was at a place called Just Eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like a small tech company now, and it was run by a guy called Ian Massingham, who is a fellow Yorkshireman. And he just recently joined this like little fledgling company called AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it was literally the AWS meetup group in London, and there's about 15 of us, and we basically all had pizzas and beer, and then they showed the live system in their office with all these screens basically. And there's all these kind of like things popping up, and these are all people ordering takeaways all across Europe and the UK, basically. Like chicken biryani, like sweet and sour chicken, and literally then if you fast forward like 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, say, literally they have to have like practically a stadium. There's like thousands of people go to these same events now, and there's like many years ago, there's like 10 of us, 15 of us having pizza. So it just shows how it's really taken off. So it's like a garage. You start in a garage, and then suddenly you've got to have a football stadium to accommodate it. So I suppose that was when you were talking, it was triggering that kind of that story in my mind about where you are.
Yeah,
you started in your kind of bedroom or your garage, thinking about what seeing the problem, and then you said, okay, let's make something of this. Then you get some help, and then suddenly you start to see, and then suddenly people start the penny starts dropping with them as well. The light bulb starts coming on. So it's really great. It's really great for you to share that story. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's in terms of the kind of future, because one of the things I was going to say to you was the other thing it triggered was there's a guy called Benedict Evans. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but one of my friends actually. Do you know him? Have you heard of him?
No.
So he used to be. He used to do strategy for Orange and Telco back in the 90s, and he was most recently a venture partner for Entrepreneur First.
Yeah.
And he's put out recently. He does like predictions. So he basically says, what's the world going to be like in 2030?
Yeah.
So I'll send you the link after this session, and I'll drop it in the when we put out the episode. But what he's basically doing is predicting Web 3.0, metaverse, AR, VR, all the big themes, all the big trends. And where's the whole world going to be in 2030? And he's got like a 65 slide presentation available for free on the internet. So it's so what I'm saying is it's really interesting that like you said about open source, people are realizing that they have to share things. I've been sharing these episodes for the last number of years. Completely. It's not. I'm not making. It's not a commercial business. It's you could say it's a passion side gig thing, yeah. But you meet great people like yourself. You get to have these conversations, and people learn from that. People learn from that content. So I'll share that with you, because I think that could be interesting for you as well. But it's also that thing about how you commercialize it. Then, so do you become a not-for-profit, or do you then or then how do you handle the monetization, the commercialization of your model, I suppose, and what's the most appropriate way of doing that? Because obviously people will consume things for free. They're used to the Google model, the Apple model, etc., the freemium model. Then where's the tipping point? How do you have you thought about that yet, or is that something you're working on?
No, so we've definitely thought about it. It's a good question. It's something we look at with what we strategize for 2022 and for the next 10 years and 20 years. And really, I see it as being a brand that's the go-to source for anything to do with AI and emerging tech from 5 to 10 years from now, because we're very niche in that area. But I mean, if you look at how we help clients at the moment, we're 100% for a profit business, and really looking at how many team members we have and how we pull that together and how we want to go forward and help people. There's a lot of ways where we always want to try and make it as free as possible. And I mean, the content will always be an aspect. We're at the moment recruiting for our first writer to try and get that kind of understanding and that baseline of an editorial desk of understanding what that would be like, because from a marketing perspective, I understand things that content creates more views, and more views understands more leads. Leads creates more opportunities, whether it's leads or not.
Cycle, isn't it?
It's a cycle when it comes from content and putting things out that helps people and people can see and understand, which is really important to us. But I mean, we're ultimately, and I guess it's a challenge we have to be very transparent with you and the audience with how we position ourselves and seeing ourselves as a market research and advisory company. I mean, we always tell people we've got 3 kind of key focuses at the moment, or services that we offer to companies of all sizes, which is across research and advisory, the awards, and consulting, and really want to build that out over the next few years. And we've got the strategy there. And some people question me, and I remember I was with a good friend in Lisbon when we were at Web Summit, which is an amazing conference, and really said, why didn't you do it right now? And I think a good thing that I always try and follow is focus. And I understand that we're still very young and I don't want to try too many things at once. And I know that we're coming from the angle, and it always will be, of how can we keep this free? So an angle that we really want to build out eventually will be training. And to make sure that training happens, we really want to make sure that university students perhaps maybe get it as part of their curriculum and they get it for free. So everything we do is really, when we make it cheap or as free as possible. And I don't know if that idea will ever come to fruition. I mean, we're in the very early stages of building those partnerships with universities. But it's always at the forefront, and using that as an example of how to stick to our two core values, which are user experience and user engagement. And everyone sometimes jumps at us and they say, oh, surely your value should include trust, and surely your value should include customer experience. I think no, because they should just be standard across any business. And we really, I don't know if that's the right approach, but I know that's what we're always focused on, because being as a publication and being essentially as research and advisory, our two kind of core arms, if we give people a great user experience and that user base is very engaged, it's going to give a great customer experience, in my view. So I think it's real.
And they're not going to be engaged if it's not a good experience, and they're not going to trust the information if it's not a good quality. So it's all interlinked anyway, isn't it? Really.
Exactly, and I don't know about you, Andrew, but this is me speaking from the heart. And this is just from what I think, from my own mind. When you see companies and they put together things that, just to me, they seem like common sense. It's like we will always be kind, we're trustworthy and innovation. I think you shouldn't be in business. You shouldn't be a business leader if you're not going to just naturally do those things. And I just think user experience and user engagement, to me, covers all of those aspects. And that's why I just think I don't need a 10-point mission statement. I just know that I'm always going to put the user first, and we're always going to treat everyone with the same respect. And it's just a given. It's not something I need to stick on a billboard and brand and say X, Y, Z. But obviously, that's from my own personal opinion.
Or have a cue card, cue card.
Exactly, but very successful business.
Tablets of stone. Here we go.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but I presume, I don't know if are you in your 20s, 30s, or 40s?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I don't think I'm in my 40s yet. I got ID the other day to give you a flavour. I'm 29. So I turned 29 in August, and which gets a few in, that's so it's a good time.
So you class are you classed as a millennial then? Is that right?
Yeah, because I just fall under that bracket, and I'm a Leo for anyone that wants to know, 6th of August. But yeah, I would be under that bracket, but really, yeah.
No, the reason I'm asking is because my sons are 18 and 16, so they're in Gen Z, isn't it? And then Gen Alpha, I think it is. Yeah. And one of the things that when you were speaking, you were saying about corporate, mission statements, all that kind of thing, value statements, everything like that. It was a very refreshing, passionate explanation of what you thought was important and what you thought wasn't important. Cut all the fluff out and say the core is this, the core purpose is this, which I think only could come from you being the generation you are.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because I think older people, and I'm observing, talk to different people, different generations, is they have a certain, that they would tip their hat to the meat and to veg, rather than just saying, well, actually, it's just the meat. Because you cut straight to it and said it's bang bang bang. It's these two things. I don't want any of this other stuff because it's implied, which is very refreshing to listen to it on the other side, actually.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hi 10. There you go.
Thank you, but I just don't get it. I just look at things and I just think, it's just more words on paper that don't really mean anything, and it's more clutter. Someone that just likes. I mean, I think Ollie mentioned it. It's just straight to it, and it's just it's not to say those things that they write down aren't important. Of course they are. But I just think you shouldn't be in business if it's just not part of who your business is anyway, and you shouldn't have to keep.
I've just thought of the other one. So you could have the AI journal, right? Yeah. Like your strap could be cut the waffle, cut the fluff,
straight to the point.
Cut out the fluff.
Yeah,
there you go. You heard it here. You heard it here first on G&T Sessions. Yeah, copyright Andrew Turner and Tom Allen. The new strapline. Cut the crap. Cut the fluff. No, sorry, cut the waffle. Yeah. Anyway, I'm honoured actually today. So today, obviously, this episode will come out in the future. a few weeks. But you made a big announcement today on LinkedIn, didn't you?
Was it today? I think it was a few days ago with the one we made one today, but the one with MWC.
Yes.
Yeah, so MWC was a big announcement, and that's really good thing for us. I'm really excited to be supporting a great conference, and I've known about them for some years and what they're doing and how they bring a lot of value for that area. So it's it's really nice to know that we're trusted by them and to have that aspect. To be part of that conference, and it's really looking forward to it. I mean, plenty of other conferences we played a part in, and very grateful to any conference that has us or any event provider of any sort to have us on board. But yeah, really excited. Barcelona next year, which will be fun. And Andrew, you should be joining me out there for the Tapas and Business Review, which maybe
is that what you call it? Tapas and the Turner Tapas and Business Review. There you go. Look.
There you go. Exactly. I just made that up, but it works. Boom. There you go. See what happens when you cut out the clutter. You come up with great focused ideas.
You see, if you're sponsored by the G&T session, you could do free gin and tonic. You see as well. There you go.
First to the audience. Tickets go on sale next week.
We'll get the landing page up over the weekend. Yeah. No, but so for people that don't understand what MWC is, I've spent a couple of decades in telco, but do you just want to explain to people what MWC is? Because it's like an acronym, isn't it? It's like a code word.
Yeah. Mobile World Congress, hosted by GSMA, which is a huge provider. They have multiple arms to them, from publication to this to consulting, and really, it's a great conference. You'll know more than me, Andrew. I've never been, so I'm very much looking forward.
Have you never been? Oh, wow. Okay.
One of our contacts, one of a kind person that we know, is telling us about how he went recently this year, and obviously reduced footfall and everything, but really, really looking forward to being a part of it. And as you were saying, it really made me think about how you were saying it, that it will be a great part. Yeah, Mobile World Congress happening at the last day of February, right through the first week of March. Which will be really fun, and then March is some really other good conferences that come off the back of that. But from what I see, a lot of great content comes out of it, some great speakers, and really paving the way to such an important part of our world. 5G.
That's the thing. Exactly, and that's the thing is that, I think as you mentioned on your post today or the other day, was that people like Mark Zuckerberg fly there, people like Tim Cook fly there. These guys are the tech titans, and they are going to this show, and this show was in place before these companies were around.
Yes.
But now they actually have to be there because the impact of what their business is on that mobile industry is significant.
Yeah.
So
connectivity.
You might be on a panel with Mark and Tim.
Maybe not this year after, maybe. I like that. That'd be quite good. Hopefully before Tim finishes up.
Never say never, Tom. You got to put these markers down. You see, we're going to mention it now. You see, then the universe will listen to us. You see, the metaverse will listen to us.
Yeah.
We'll have our Oculus 2s on. Yeah. And then it'll be like.
I remember I get told off by my advisory board a fair bit because I always look at it from where we're going to be in 5 years, and they're just like, Tom, what about the next 12 months? And I'm like, I don't. It's just I look at 5-10 years, because everything else really, I think. It's the classic saying I heard from Tony Robbins, actually, that says we underestimate what we can do in 10 years and we overestimate what we can do in a year. So it's always trying to think of that kind of longer timeline of what we can really accomplish. I mean, I'm still very young. The business is still very young, so I don't want to be someone that's just like, we can do this, because focus is a big part of, and I don't want to be chasing. But that's not to say I don't want to do it. So Mark and Tim, if you are out there and you want to do a panel with me, please, let's do it. But 2 years is fine with me as well.
We just have to tag him when we publish this episode, you see, and they'll be like, watching it. There you go. Hi, Tim. Hi, Mark. So one of the things we do talk about in this show as well is about, so we talked about peaks and valleys, yeah? So obviously, one of the things that usually people do is, which is quite, it's logical, is people talk about, how they've gone from, the garage to the garage to the bedroom to the front room, to the garden, and then obviously to the football stadium.
Yeah.
But then I suppose as part of that journey, and I know obviously you said you're coming out of the port and you're on your first year of your runway.
Yeah.
What were the kind of what are the kind of adversity or what are the kind of the valleys that you've been through that you'd share with the audience? What would be some of the examples that you maybe want to share that people could learn from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think really It was getting the initial traction. So initial traction's really hard, especially within media, and really kind of. And I see a lot of companies, and I see obviously a lot of companies want us to interview them and check what they're doing and see how they're doing it. I've got friends that are very focused on building their own brand and everything, which is great. But one thing I see, and one thing we didn't struggle with, but it's something I do see a lot, is not actually just launching and just getting it underway. And I mean, it doesn't really matter. I think one thing I've never had a problem with, and I never do have a problem, and sometimes it's a criticism, and sometimes it's a given gift, because we don't try for perfection. I think it was Jay Shetty that said a 75% barrier is great, because anything more than that, you're just never going to reach it. And also, I don't know what's going to look good and what's not going to look good. So I think that's where I struggled a little bit initially, and I was like, oh, it needs to be perfect. And I had such a small audience.
Right.
Last month, we reached over 1.3 million people within a 30-day period or 28-day period. And
wow.
It's the only reason that we get there. And I think to anyone that it is in the same spot as me or further ahead, I think it is that classic not getting caught up in just aiming for perfection. I did struggle with it. And I mean, it's really something now. I say I struggled with it. It was one of those key things to get over. But I'm always about speed and just getting things done and getting things out and getting more content and getting the feedback from it. Because what I think's good in my own head, and when I've hit perfection, other people might turn around and say, God, that's awful. But it's just like looking at it from that.
Right. Yeah. It's all relative.
Yeah, relative. And I think the other thing was really when the struggles that we got was just it's a classic thing of trying to, and we have it now and we always will have it. And I mean, it's just always looking at how to get more resourceful. And I think that's the only way we've grown the business is to leverage as much as possible. But downfalls, I mean, we really haven't had that many, I guess. My personal downfall was executing, which is a big thing that I'm really trying to get mentored on, and looking for like sales mentors and looking for those areas to really, because my focus is, I'm not a salesperson. Well, people say I'm not a salesperson, and they get on the phone and they're like, "Oh, you're a salesperson." But I'm looking at it from like how to be.
Well, you go. Stop ringing me, Tom. I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't go from it from the angle of buying. I go from the angle of like, come on, we can add value, we can do this. It's never really focused. When I never thought of turning it into a business, which was a major downfall to me, and I've learned it pretty quickly. But Kieran was very hot on it to say, look, Tom, you need to be more focused on turning it around to what actually value that we can put a price on it, which was a big thing we overcame. But where I was going with it was executing for me is what I'm looking at for the next year, because it was something where I can create and I can push things out, and because my background is marketing, I can write and I can do all these things very quickly. It quickly became overwhelming for us, and we're at 9 team members now, and it's really a big challenge I'm facing right now is the operations side and thinking, okay, how can we keep selling while still running and bringing in tools, whether it's Asana or Slack. I hadn't given it thought, and I left it a bit too late, and it was about 3 weeks ago or something, I had a moment where I was like just literally like everything all hit us on 1 week, and it was I'm very grateful for it, because it's how we improve and how we can better.
But you got on your surfboard, yeah? You got on your surfboard, and you can like surf through it, you see. Yeah,
exactly.
A big kahuna.
Exactly. And I'm always a big fan of reducing and just getting rid. And I say it so easily now, but it was something I generally struggled with, how to reduce. And I think it's something that annoyed me from my previous career, my last role and everything, just so much. And I just think, can't be doing all this and adding the value, like to get focused. And I mean, we're only big on LinkedIn, and we want to be bigger on all the other platforms. Twitter is going to be a huge one for us, because where a lot of journalists hang out, and a lot of people get to it, very short, snappy, time relevant messages, which is very important for where we are. But how we've grown on LinkedIn so quickly, it purely is focus. It's just where are your strengths and focus on that one channel. And I mean, it can leave you sometimes in a big situation, but that's something I'm learning at the moment, how to leverage that. And I think it's a key thing I always look at, how can I leverage this as much as possible. And once you do that, I think you're and I'm not speaking as a
it's also managing the
yeah, sorry.
It's also managing the growth, isn't it? I suppose, because also if you were doing everything, and then you start having to delegate, and then you have to actually then lead, and you've got to work into more strategy stuff then, haven't you, to like more long term. Exactly. It's an evolution, isn't it? So that's where actually having some people to just do I'm not going insane. This is what's going through my head. Does this make sense? that's very helpful for you. Yeah,
we've had loads of problems as a business, as a startup, or a publication, whatever you want to class us as, and people are welcome to class us as whatever they want, whether we're a research advisory or publication. We do have those two sides. But I mean, there were times when a lot of the money that went into it is my own money, and to push it and to get it across the line, and having all those conversations that people don't normally talk about, or they feel embarrassed. But it's not embarrassing to me, because I think there were times where I didn't know how the hell I was going to pay an invoice, and you just think it's all good, and it's all brilliant how we've got to where we are. And I think when people are starting businesses and that are in them, it's all problems you're going to face, or you might face, whether it's to do with that, or to do with a strategy, or to do with another area. Those were the kind of key areas that hit us, and still do hit us. But I'm looking forward to them, because it's makes us much better at being able to handle them. So it's always welcomed with a smile.
Yeah, I mean, so once you get through the mindset that you're always going to have problems, it's not like completely still water forever. So you're going to get some tidal waves and some choppy water. Yeah, and I think that's one. But I think we get educated, I think, in certain places about, it's all going to be beautiful. It's all going to be sunny. The beach is going to be lovely. It's going to be no wind. And then suddenly these things start hitting you, and you go, it's how you deal with that. It's how you respond to them.
Yeah, exactly. How you respond to it. I think that's a great way that you put it, Andrew. It's exactly the same. I'm sure you've seen it as well over your great years and everything, to see how.
Not that many great years. Not that many great years.
Yeah, we all have great days. Every day's a great day. It's it's exactly that point as you made, Andrew. It's always to try and just understand how to make that situation better, or how to. 20 years from now, we'll be chatting, and it'll still be there'll always be problems, because you're in business. There's always there's always a challenge, and there's always an opportunity. Is the way I look at it. There's always opportunities. So it's and they all come with every time. I love it though, because I always see it, and I forgot who told it. It was one of my mentors. Looked at it as every challenge, look at it as an opportunity to think, okay, well, how is this an opportunity to learn and to become better and to do it, rather than thinking, it's a nightmare, because ultimately my nightmare is probably someone else's greatest gift. So that way I always kind of cools my head to think about, okay, well, how can we now overcome it? Now it's and how can we make note of this? So like every time I get asked a question about the business, I always try, and not every time, but I always try and make a mental note or jot it down on notes on my phone, because I think it's another question, it's another question, it's another question. And once you start seeing these questions, it makes you more, okay, how do people see it? And I think that was a big learning curve for us, actually, back to the point before, to think, what do people actually think about us, which is a key thing for me, always to think, what do people think about us? How do they see us? What do they do to us? And that's why it goes back to those user experience and user engagement. It's so valuable for us, at least.
Yeah, because people have got they've got a finite amount of time. Yeah, so they're making a choice. They're making a choice about where they spend their time. So if that experience is like really, it's like really not very pleasant. Yeah, they're going to go somewhere else. It's like if you're going to a restaurant or whatever, going to a bar or whatever. Yeah. And then if you're then in that walled garden, you can say, of the AI journal. Yeah. Then is it actually engaging? Is it fun to be there? Are you learning something? Are you actually moving your understanding and knowledge forward? Yeah. Or is it just kind of like as dull as dishwater? Yeah. And I think you nailed it there with those two things. Actually, it does actually encompass a lot of the you could say customer satisfaction drivers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always think. I always come from it. I don't know the right answer. I'm not. I'll be my own ideal customer, but I'm not the ideal customer. I need to go find out what they think. And I think it's always now and 50 years from now, if we do turn into one of the biggest companies in the world, I'll still want to know what the people think, how to keep up relevant. And maybe next to nothing that's working today will exist in our business in 50 years. I don't know. Maybe it will, but it will always.
The fascinating thing with technology now, that when I obviously a few decades ago, I started getting involved in technology, and obviously then I've been in business roles as well as technology roles. And the thing is now it's like hot. It's a hot space now. Everybody's coming. I remember seeing in the Evening Standard, Google. You join Google, or do you join Goldman Sachs? Yeah, normally people go into banking. Yeah, no, they go to Google, or they go to one of the other tech companies. Yeah, and my youngest son wants to be a games developer. Yeah, exactly. So he loves Call of Duty and Fortnite and all those kind of things. Yeah, and how would you want to, how could you envisage doing that as a career? Just it wasn't comprehensible 5-10 years ago. It was very, very niche, but now it's talking about having NFTs non-fungible games. I think, or non-fungible tokens to do with games. Gaming is going to be a big. These JPEGs are selling for, some ether.
Yeah.
Of the Funky Gibbon or Funky Gorilla kind of club or whatever they call it. It's going to evolve into, tokenization within a game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, you start putting those kind of things together, it's going to blow up.
Yeah. I mean, that point is great that you made as well, Andrew, because to your son's example, I always looked at it and I've seen videos and I've seen conferences and I've seen things where people are so forceful on the person saying, and I think it was Gary Vee, he's got a great book that talks about all these different ways that you can make money basically and turn it into a passion. And whether it...
Oh, you mean the Crushing It one, the Crushing It book?
Yeah, it's a great book, and I loved it because it just showed, and I mentioned it in a feature we've got coming up next week that I'll be sharing, which will be really fun, that we did an interview on. And it was that same kind of... And I take it from Gary Vee, because as soon as you heard that, it's really like your son doing gaming. People are like, but gaming's for people, gaming's for all these different things, whatever you want to label it as. And I think we'll go try to tell Ninja that, and go try to tell the people playing at World Championships, and try telling Rockstar Games that, because Rockstar Games is about 100 times more profitable than, or whatever the figure is, 10 times more profitable than movies. And you just think, you're wrong. Like, it's such a big area. Like, games developers get tons of money to develop games they love and they have a passion for, or whether it's chess or whether it's whatever you're into. And I think being I just think all that kind of what might have been relevant 10 years ago is just, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't believe it. I just think there's passion and money.
Yeah, I mean, it's turning industries on its head. It's turning industries on its head. I mean, there's a classic quote from this Benedict pitch. It was basically, he said, the internet. I think the internet disrupted music and publications, but now it's going to disrupt everything else. Yeah, it's literally that profound. Yeah, and my Gary Vee story, actually, 3 years ago, he was in Troxy in East London. Yeah, and I went to that thing, and I actually bought the Crushing It book at that actual conference. Yeah, and it was packed. It was absolutely packed. And he just literally sat on the edge of the stage, no slides. Yeah. I just spoke for an hour and a half, like just completely and then literally there was all these people that queuing up to ask him questions, get photos with him and all this kind of stuff. He's great. It was an amazing session. The vibe in there was amazing. Yeah. He's a really cool guy. Really cool guy. Yeah. Gary Vee. See, they'd be saying Gary Vee, they'd be saying Tommy Allen. Allen.
Well, hopefully you can speak next year in Asia. So for Rise conference in Hong Kong, he's one of the speakers.
Is he? Okay.
In March.
Oh, cool.
And I've seen him speak once before in Birmingham. But yeah, very. I'm very attuned with what he says and how he gets the message across, and it's a lot of what I kind of try and live as well. So it's very cool that you're into this.
I think with you headquartered in where you are, where AI Journal, the Silicon Ring capital, yeah. You see, you got to like call up the mayor of Birmingham and say, look, this is an opportunity here, Mayor.
Yeah, exactly. I'll bring everything to Silicon Ring here in Birmingham. I mean, it's going up on a weekly basis at the moment. So
you see, actually, I've just remembered the Jewelry Quarter. Yeah, is not far from where you are. So there you go, Silicon Ring. Beyonce going to put a ring on it. See, there you go.
Exactly. There we go.
Perfect. You see, Silicon Ring. See, it's genius.
Around St. Paul's Square. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Be a good
pulling that bell. So in terms of the future, I mean, obviously we're now in 2021 because we kind of scrubbed out 2020. Yeah, we had it was written in pencil and we kind of scrubbed it out with a bit of a razor. Yeah.
Yeah. But the year AI Journal was started, so I've got to give it some credit.
Well, no, that's what I say. So what was I say to you? Exactly. So what was I say? Your 10-year anniversary will be in 2030. Yeah. So what's it going to look like then? Are you going to be? It's going to be like it's going to be a panel, right? Okay, we've got the CEO of Gartner. Yeah. Got the CEO of Forrester. And then we got the CEO of AI Journal, Tom. Yeah. Actually, we'll come to you. We'll come to you first. Gartner and Forrester. Can you just hold a second? Okay, Tom. What?
That would be.
I'd like to say visualization of the future.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are similar to what they're offering, but I mean we're very niche. But if I was on that panel with some great names from great companies, I think I don't know what I'd be looking at. I mean, eventually to maybe we will take the pump, go very large and very wide with the company. But there's a lot of service offerings we want to build in and a lot of ways we want to go. And how I see the business, at least, is one of the big things for me is to turn it into a marketplace. Not exactly too sure how that's going to evolve, but the key aspects we want to bring in, obviously build up the awards program, build up the membership area, which will take another 2-3 years of really understanding a way to collaborate freely and connect people, similar to Meetup, but we're very engaged, very targeted. Training and all through those avenues to bring in the marketplace and to bring in maybe an AI journal seal of approval, similar to being ISO approved or something, because I think it's going to become
like a kite mark kind of thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm very confident that it's going to work, and I'm very eager. It's probably the biggest area that I've got a lot of focus on for the background. Obviously, I need to keep focusing on what we're doing now, but those plans are there, and I think that's what will take us to maybe, arguably, I can't see the future, but becoming a publicly traded company and to really add value to a lot more people and always keep those kind of free avenues available. But a marketplace and being a stamp of approval is the key things that in 10 years I would like to see live and announced and to be talking about with maybe 2 or 3 years under their belt of success. When I'm speaking to other great minds at Forrester Gartner and IDC or wherever else, would be fun. But for the future, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner in 2 weeks, let alone what's going to happen with tech.
Or 2 hours.
Yeah.
No. But I think it's just because the reason I raised that point was because I think that there is I I've been obviously I was in with SAP in the 90s, etc., and different tech companies in Silicon Valley and stuff, and
yes.
It's what I say is it's that phrase, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
It's the usual suspects that you have to go and talk to. The great companies, but actually having a new entrant into that space and another to give choice to the businesses that are working there, I think is a very interesting proposition. Yeah. Especially if you get the right team around you and you can scale it, and as you to keep to those principles you're talking about keeping it experience and engagement. Yeah. Then I think it's there's some interesting potential there.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun because I look at every kind of, I looked at it. I don't know why, Andrew, but I looked at it and I was thinking. So I always find it funny because I know Jeff Bezos was bloody quick on spotting a trend, and I'm not saying that to compare, but like if I looked at it and I was trying to think what are trends of businesses in this area, and I was thinking, well, every kind of successful business adds tons of value. Is some form of marketplace. And that's where it's really neat to think how to, and I think other companies will have a lot of success or audience people with those backgrounds to really make it open source. The open source is a key thing to me, and free knowledge sharing. And I saw the stat of why Android had so much more success with its I can't remember what stat it was compared on, but it compared the App Store compared to Android's marketplace. And App Store is very limited. And they have not limited.
It's very curated, isn't it?
It's very curated. They have a lot more restrictions on how apps can get onto it and how they can be built. Yes. Whereas Android is pretty much free for all, as long as it doesn't go against certain things of make upsetful comments or anything. But I forgot the word. But anything that's bad, and by doing that, their reach and their access was huge, just paramount. I think that's where a lot of arguably, yes, there's pros and cons to each side, but having that kind of open source, free kind of democratization and like learning together and doing that creates so much more value because you learn from other people, and I think any great leader knows that.
Yeah, because you spot that's a really good analogy because you think about it. It's a juxtaposition, so I call it. It's like taking a different lens on it, isn't it? So
and you get more people. People love to share their input. People love to talk about themselves, and that's the great way of understanding. Okay, well, I now know what you think. Like, thanks for handing me over a black book of how to make you a customer. Like, it's a real good way.
Well, then it becomes richer as well as an output, isn't it? Because you get more and more voices. You get more and more. Yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. That's a really good point.
Oh, thanks.
Wow.
It's what I tell people as well. I mean, look at it, how we built it, how we snowball affected. I think we got someone. I think it was the head of AI at BMW. They were our first kind of key people that had very big influence that wrote for us and wrote on their site. And obviously when someone tells something, they want to go tell everyone else. And like Snowflake talked about us the other week, and that got us, I think.
Oh, yeah, Snowflake. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
10,000 views for just publishing a quick article. That didn't take me much time, but people like to tell people is what I think. And back to that point, Andrew, whether you're doing it, whether your audience are doing it, I think a marketplace is a perfect way of doing it. Look at Reddit. Reddit's like the most read publication going because it welcomes everyone to come and write about it. It spoke numbers to me of just thinking how to get that collaboration. And
I mean, the analogy is it's a bit like being a broad church, isn't it? It's been a broad church. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's why.
We're not going to get religious on this episode.
I was going to say I'm not religious, but
that's the next time that Tom comes back on the show.
I don't think I'd have much to add to that conversation, but it's no. Here's a recommendation I'll give people to really always think about it, and that's what I speak what I say. I do what I say in that kind of term. We are going to build that kind of aspect, and whether it will succeed or not, I don't know. But it's very it looks very attractive to me.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing, I think, is you're applying you kind of stepping back and applying some fresh thinking into the problem set and what actually are the people, what they actually want, rather than just churning out the same kind of approach. So I think, it's interesting. Yeah, you're the disruptor. You're like,
But a great book as well, if the audience wants it, is I read it and I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but Principles by Ray Dalio, because he went.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, he nearly went broke, and his story is incredible. He does it on podcasts. He talks about it in his book. Well, I don't know if he talks about it in his book, but he basically he went very successful very quickly, and then he nearly lost it all because he bet against some sort of crisis with South America, and it defaulted. And I can't remember the full story, but you can go read it, watch it. And he kind of just said from that moment onwards, and it's similar to what I'm thinking and how you're thinking, Andrew. How do I know I'm right? And that's why I always say 75% benchmark. How do I know I'm right? Because I don't know until it's out there, or at least that's how I interpret it. Obviously, his world's investing and looking at it from a completely different angle. But having that kind of thinking, how do I know I'm right? And that's why we always just try and test new things. And like you said, maybe we are disruptors. I wouldn't class myself as that. I just kind of think, how can we user experience?
Yeah, but what you're looking at is a bit like back to the generational thing about you look at it through fresh eyes.
Yeah,
you don't have that history, that baggage. You could say all the grey hairs, experience of that. You go, well, if I was doing it for fresh, I'd do it like this. Yeah. You don't go. You don't like cut and paste because you just go, well, I'm going to do it like this. That's it. Yeah. And then people are reacting to that in a positive way. So you do more and you do more. So. The unicorns or the decacorns that you're hanging out with now, the snowflakes of this world, that's good traction. It's mutually beneficial for the stuff you're talking about. So
exactly.
Yeah, all power to you.
That's how people.
So what are you most excited about then? Would you say in the next 12 months? What would you say is getting you most excited?
Meeting people in person again is arguably the most exciting thing. Seeing people, I'm seeing a few people now face to face, but really doing the global footprint. But I think it's more exciting just to keep seeing our reach going up and just knowing we're helping more and more people and helping people understand tricky topics and just to get more and more contributors. I mean, we're growing. We really are in the middle of a snowball effect at the moment where we're just getting more and more people come out, whether that's from the director of comms at SAP, right through to VPs.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Right through to all these different avenues to startups. And I always will have that kind of thinking towards people. I mean, whether they're a junior data engineer and they're only 21 years old, that person someday could be the CEO or could be, even if they're not, head of department. I'm thinking, okay, well, how can I match the next 12 months to your career for the next 20 years? So in 20 years' time, we've really been on that ride with you and really been that source of information to help you along your career. And maybe they don't pay us anything. It's just to think, how can I add that to you? And I think that's what I'm most excited about, really. The next year obviously I'm excited about serving more clients and more customers and more people that know about us, but really just building on that footprint to help more people and to hopefully sign more university partnerships. I think that will be a really exciting front because ultimately it will be not just me, it will be the AI Journal, but the kind of model to that is to say you, Andrew, would have you as a teacher or as someone that would do the training and ultimately put in people's personal brands in front of university students while they're sponge mindset and still actually help them, because I think it's really going to be an area I want to focus on shaping the kind of develop the curriculum more Yeah,
develop the curriculum.
People need to understand at that level. I think it will make us much better as a world, that when we start targeting those kind of people that are younger and still have that kind of mindset and can be told about it, I think it will open a lot more opportunities for them. I think that's what I'm very excited about. The next kind of build that foundation of some sort. I don't know fully yet, but I've got a strategy session in a couple of my advisory board, and maybe we'll have an answer there. So it'll be a good way to do it.
No, but what you touched on there is very interesting, actually, because obviously my son's going through education. Is that thing about the curriculum and making sure it's relevant?
Yeah.
Well, and timely. And that's what I think that's the injection you can give into all these universities and all these education establishments, because you've got your finger on the pulse, of what's going on.
Exactly.
So finger.
And I mean,
and I think that's sometimes I think my observation is, if I look at the stuff that I did, many moons ago, that I was doing, that I did for my MBA and all that kind of stuff. Some of it, I mean, my MBA exam for strategy was McDonald's. Yeah. Now, now if you're doing an MBA, you probably do a strategy on, I don't know, Tesla or something like that. It's moved on a bit probably, but how do you keep refreshing that stuff? Because otherwise, there's some principle stuff in there, like the Ray Dalio stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also, you've got to keep current. And I think sometimes my observation with education is it's not always kept in lockstep with the world. It's sometimes some stuff is still, Bob Cratchit. It's like you got a quill pen out. But I know there's some foundational stuff you have to do to get to the advanced stuff. Yeah. But I think that's a really interesting angle you got there.
Yeah, it's an angle I'm very passionate about, because I personally, it doesn't mean it's a right or wrong answer, but I personally think the education system's quite rubbish. I mean, I got an EUE and did very awful at A-levels and had to go get a BTEC. And I mean, I got booted off my first year university course, and you're thinking, how the hell have I become a business owner and all that kind of aspects.
Oh, wow.
It was really from those angles. It wasn't because I was bad. I just thought, what's the point? I don't need to know these things. And I was speaking to one of my mates who's a data engineer at a very well-known, large financial service company. And it was really, how much do you use from your MBA of doing advanced maths and mathematics? And he's like, well, now I'm a data engineer or data developer, sorry. I think he said, I wouldn't quote him in this, but he said, I think I probably used no more than 5% of what I learned at university. So you think, how relevant is it? Like, how? And I think it's that classic model of outsourcing it. So when you sign up to a university curriculum, and I think it's great if you want to, I don't think you should be penalised if you don't want to. It's more of a lifestyle experience, really, university, or it was for me. It's a way of, if you can open source that and add it to their curriculum, and they can learn from 100 different teachers, similar to masterclass. They're going to have much more input and much more feedback at a time when they really need to make up for their own minds and what they want to go into, rather than a set curriculum of saying, you've got to do it. And I understand there's certain courses that are helpful, but I mean, if you look at, and this is going off topic, but if you look at it from how much people actually know their own personal finances, or actually what's available to you and what businesses are out there, a lot of people aren't aware that you can go work at these big tech companies, and maybe more so now, at least I wasn't, because if you didn't relate to them. Like you said, you learn about McDonald's, now people look at Tesla or all the bigger companies, and it's really building that in. And I mean, VR is a big thing. Anyone that speaks to me about VR, I could just bite their ear off for 2 hours, because if I had VR in front of me at school and university, I wouldn't have got those 2 U's and an E, because it would be something.
It would have engaged you.
I'm in the moment. Yeah. I can see it. I can move it, and I've always done well in my career. And it's because of, once I'm in the moment, I can understand how it works and I can see it. And I think when I was at LAC, I could see a whole process happening in front of me, and it was. So some days it was like a VR experience, because you got these big gantry robots flying around in cages and everything. But I think that kind of experience, rather than just on a whiteboard, is going to be, we're going to have a much, much smarter, and that's why I'm very passionate about education, to kind of bring that to people for free. So it's obviously a commercial basis in the university, well, that's what's planned. But for the student or for the person trying to learn, it's largely for free, to help them, again, to add that value to their life and give them a great experience. Very, very
interesting. No, it's good. It's an interesting conversation. Yeah, I think until unless you the age you're at, or you observe your children going through that kind of process, and then what do they want to do afterwards? And that point about the 5% rule, even I can apply that to stuff I learned many years ago as well. So yeah. unfortunately, it's not improving. So there's an opportunity. There's a gap in the market.
New things come up, Andrew.
Say again?
New things come about to learn, though. So obviously, when you start,
yeah, there's plenty. Yeah. The company you may want to look at is XR Applied. They call it XR Applied. They're in Canada, and they've listed on the stock market already. And they're doing like a game studio, and they're also doing some co-development with some other companies. Right. And I said, no, who are you competing with? And I said, it's like, Apple, Facebook, Google. So it's like, it's like a huge, because obviously if you look at the investments, they're putting billions and billions of dollars into that kind of space at the moment. Yeah. So one of the things we do towards the end of each episode is actually ask a question about, you're a young guy anyway, but talking to your younger self and giving some pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
Obviously, it sounds like you've had an accelerated experience during the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I can see that you're obviously, you got a way to go, but you still you kind of be developing as a person.
Yeah.
But if anybody's listening to this episode today and they go, shouldn't I do it? What are the Tomisms or the Alanisms that you want to leave people with from today's episode? What would you think about that?
I'd like to look back on this in a year to see what would change. But one of the key things I was annoyed at myself was, and I shouldn't be annoyed, but one of the things I wish I did earlier was just start reading. Because reading is so valuable, and that's something, it really switched my head when I started reading business books, and it's hard to get into, but it really, and I can't speak for what it will do for other people, but I just wish from a younger age I had started reading, because it's such and obviously I've dipped a little bit at the moment, but it's still an important factor to me because I read various different things. But trying to get that into my mind was something I'd definitely recommend. And also just, I think, as I said it again, this feature coming up, to really, whatever it is in your passion, whatever it is, you should try it, really. You should just go for it. And I mean, it's easier said than done. But really, there'll be lots of, look at how much you can get for free now. You can watch YouTube videos and you can do whatever else. I think it was Elon Musk that said you don't need an MBA because you can get everything for free off YouTube. He was like, that will give you enough to think, is this something I really want to delve into? And I mean, once you start knowing what you want to go into, and I just wish I had, by chance I fell into AI. I've fallen into it, and people say, oh, he's the one that you need. Like people have said, this is the person that's becoming the hotspot for AI. I always tell people, I didn't know a bloody thing about AI. I didn't know the first thing. And a year and a half, obviously, I immersed myself into it. So if you find something,
you went deep.
Yourself, just full immersion is and I think I go to Tony Robbins seminars, he says that's how you become a pro and a master at something very quickly. So fully immerse yourself. So whether that's immersion,
take the water wings off. Take the water wings off and dive in. Yeah.
And I mean, have that kind of like I read about certain things that I'll never go into, and I mean, I plan to open other businesses and run other businesses that are completely separate to AI Journal and completely separate different fields. But my advice, or I don't know if it's advice, it's what I've done, and what I've been annoyed at myself is, if I could go back and ask myself, it would be to read, and it'd also to be take bigger risks, because really it was a time where everything good has come from taking risks. Obviously, some bad things have come from taking risks, but you learn from them, and when you take risks, you learn. And I always say, nothing against anyone that is an employee or in a team or in a business, because that's where people can thrive. Definitely running a business has taught me 100 times more than being in a manager role, or what I was before, a marketing manager role, or I was on the leadership team as well in my last role. But looking at it from that angle, I've just learned so much more because I have to, and you get a better feel for it. So even if it's a 9 gig or whatever else is, I wish I'd started them earlier. Like if I was 20 back at university and I started reading then, I'd be light years ahead of where I am now, but can't change time. But that's what I'd recommend to people.
Cool. And very, very good. So again, sorry?
Don't drink as much, is what I'd say as well. When I was in London, there was a very big party scene, and drink. Yeah, a lot of. I did very well, but it was
Surely not. Students don't drink, do they?
Really? Yeah. So I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought all the offers and countless.
I thought that was water. That's not supposed to be vodka. That's supposed to be water. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. No, it's that's what I think. Well, you see, we're on the G&T sessions now. So I was expecting you might come on with a gin and tonic. So some of the founders and CEOs that I've had on the show. Oh, look at this! Which one is it?
That's an Etsu. I've drank.
Oh, nice.
Left in it, but I got that the other week to celebrate seeing a friend, and that's from Japan. It's very dry gin, very nice. And I've got a nice 6-year-old bottle of whiskey, which I don't know if I'll ever open, or 7 years, but very for special occasions.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't put them in the same glass. That might put you in trouble.
Is that from personal experience, Andrew?
I couldn't possibly comment. Yeah, especially with the red wine. Red wine, whiskey, and gin are the same. Oh no, don't do that. So no, thank you very much for coming on the episode today. It's been fantastic. I suppose one of the questions I was going to say was about if anybody wants to know a bit more about AI Journal and what you're doing. Yes. What's the best way of finding out more about the AI Journal? Is there somewhere to go, or how to?
So I'd say come to follow us on LinkedIn. That's where we post. We don't post the most content, but we post a lot of content that's not always on the website. We share a lot on there, and we share from different people from all different walks of life and what they're doing in different startups. Come and you can just search that AI Journal. Come join the community. I'd love to have you as part of that audience, and love to have you along for the ride. Listen to you, see what you want to do, see what you want to see improved. Come follow the website. You can join up to the subscribers list, which you'll get all the updates, and there's never anything that we'd be pushing on you, but to really understand on a bi-weekly basis of what the latest stories are, you can come follow us and join us there. And also you can connect with me on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to connect and happy to speak to you and see what we can do together, and just get any feedback. But I'd say mainly LinkedIn and the website is where we hang out. And if you do want to become a contributor or share your opinion, you can email me at tom.allen@aijournal.com, and which is really annoying us because we've got the domain for the aijournal.co.uk. But when I bought the AI Journal email address and website for 20 quid or whatever it was, the one at the time was a Chinese gambling website, but we now have the domain. So we are swapping that over.
Oh, wow.
But digressing, but you can come and follow us there and come and engage with us. We'd love to have you as part of the community and love to add value to you.
Cool. That sounds really good. I mean, what I was going to say was, it's a bit like you basically created out of the back of the thing that's been going on in the whole world is you've created a new media business. Yeah, it's like a new destination. So, all power to you, Tom. It's been fantastic for you coming on the show today, and I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
And make sure you don't drink all that gin tonight, but you can think about it.
Yeah, I got bollocks instead.
Oh, okay. As a fallback, plan B. So thank you very much. That was Tom Allen, who's founder and CEO of the AI Journal. And that was Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.